Hi guys, it's Ryan here. I'm so excited. This is actually, I'm gonna just start off by saying this is attempt number 2 at the video intro. See, I've already butched it up again. This is our second try. We're starting today's meeting. It is Sunday. It's our normal Cinemaholics meeting. I'm excited to be here today. My name is Ryan Gordon, and I'm a Cinemaholic.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Spencer Henderson, and I am a cinemaholic.
We're both super excited to be here today. We have an awesome episode planned. We're gonna just dive into everything, but right off the top, I want to remind you guys of a few things. Down below in the description, we've got a couple things that we've been implementing into all of our videos. We've got a few playlists where you can check out some of my trailer reactions, some of our past episodes, or some of the Channel Surfer stuff, and you know, all of our playlists to all of our other episodes. As well, we have a link to the audio-only version, the iTunes podcast, and we have timestamps. So after this live recording, we'll go back and add the timestamps. So if you haven't seen Manchester by the Sea yet, you can watch all of the episode up to that point, go see Manchester by the Sea, come back and skip forward directly to that part and hear the review of that. So that aside, I do want to drop the big news and start getting people hyped, because next week has 2 things going for it. Rogue One, possibly actually 3 things. So Rogue One, La La Land, and we have a guest appearance. Spencer, go ahead and tell us who our guest is going to be on next week's episode, and then why don't you just get us started with your watch list?
So, guys, next week we are having Stephen Perry guest on Cinemaholic Productions to talk about Rogue One with us. We're both super excited. Stephen's pretty knowledgeable with film and other things. He has tons of useless knowledge. He's just super cool guy. And yeah, like us, he'll be able to talk about movies and about Star Wars, which we all love Star Wars. So now let's get into my watch list. I have a really short watch list. I'm in the midst of finals week, and I think Ryan is too. So he kind of feels the pain of not being able to get much watched. But I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of a story with my watch list this week. So I went and saw Office Christmas Party this afternoon, and while the trailers play, I did my routine of putting in my headphones and listening to some music. And for some reason, for the last trailer that came up, I happened to be looking up when the trailer started, and the first shot intrigued me so much that I watched the entire trailer. And that is XXX, the Return of Xander Cage. And I just want to say, go watch this trailer, because this looks like the greatest movie of all time. This literally looks so good. Have you seen this trailer, Ryan?
I have.
Okay, yeah. So just to give you guys a little bit of context, this starts with him jumping off of a satellite or like a cell phone tower with skis to ski down a forest. Like, no joke, that's the first establishing shot of this trailer. So I had to watch it, and it involved a guy riding a longboard down a hill and like literally riding across the side of a bus, and people poking their heads out of the windows and looking at him. This trailer is amazing. Like, the trailer's a masterpiece. I don't even know if I want to see the movie, because I don't know if it can live up to my like sky high expectations now. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's basically all I have on my watch list. If you have anything you want to add to that, then speak your piece, Ryan, because this movie, I'm predicting this is going to be just the worst thing ever. Probably the worst thing ever made by human hands.
Have you seen XXX, and have you seen XXX, the Ice Cube version?
No, but I'm really interested to see this one now, and I might have to go back and watch those. Have you seen them?
Yes. So they're both ridiculous. I remember watching the first one years and years ago when I didn't know much about anything, and I enjoyed it for what it was. And then the Ice Cube one came out, and it was kind of like, oh, we didn't have enough money to get Vin Diesel back, so here's Ice Cube. and it was kind of building off of it. It was kind of like a Jason Bourne scenario. You do the first 3, and then it's like, oh, let's get Jeremy Renner. And then it's like, oh, by the way, no, now Jason Bourne is back, and we're getting back to that. And that's kind of what this feels like, and it looks completely ridiculous.
I think that's the first and only time you guys will ever hear Jason Bourne and Triple X in the same sentence. Cinemaholics only.
Awesome. I am looking forward to this just because we were talking previously today about the worst movies of the year, and I think this will make it onto the list next year. Likewise, like you were saying, I am in the midst of finals, as well as my play is still going. So if you're in Utah County, come see my play. It's almost sold out for the rest of the run till the 23rd. So get your tickets now. And I'm working, so no time. But I did manage to squeak out 2 movies for my watch list. And the first one, I had a bunch of friends over who have never seen this movie before. And it was so fun to watch it with people who haven't seen it. I love this movie. And it was kind of in anticipation for next week going to see La La Land. Whiplash, ladies and gentlemen. I love this movie. This is the movie that won J.K. Simmons his Oscar. It was originally a Sundance short and did really well at Sundance. And so they got the funding and they made a feature out of it, which the feature then went to Sundance and did really well. And then it was a huge Oscar contender. Miles Teller is the lead. It is about jazz band. And to sum up all of my thoughts on this movie, I think it was a Sundance Q&A that I was watching, but Damien Chazelle was talking, and somebody, he mentioned that he did jazz band before, and somebody in the audience asked him why he quit jazz band, and he just like got all somber, and he looks at the person and he's like, did you not watch the movie? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is real. So I want to hear your thoughts, and then I'll go ahead and score it really quick.
Yeah, I love Whiplash. Sorry, I was so caught up in the wonder of Triple X that I kept the poster up. Yeah, I love Whiplash. Whiplash was my second favorite movie of 2014, right behind Boyhood, and it actually beat out Boyhood to win the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance in that year that it went. Yeah, it's great acting. Probably one of my favorite movie endings of all time. And I found it really, really inspiring. Some people found the ending dark and like kind of like he couldn't escape Fletcher. That's his name, I think. Yep. But yeah, he couldn't escape his grasps. But I saw it as more, he like kind of was his Mr. Miyagi from The Karate Kid. He trained him throughout this entire time, and he intended something like that the entire time is how I like to kind of see the ending. Spoiler alert, it's been 2 years. You guys have had time to see it. So Ryan, what is your score for Whiplash?
9 out of 10. I loved this movie, and this will really show how cynical I am, I guess, because I really related to J.K. Simmons' character, Fletcher, and I don't know if I necessarily like related in the context that I'm a dick all the time like he is, but I really, in a weird way, admire his philosophy, and I agree with him on it. That he has a line where he says, I feel like the 2 words that are the most harmful in the English language are good job. And I actually really agree with that. And I feel like a lot of people don't reach their potential because we're always settled with, oh, good job, you tried, participation medal. But at the same time, there is a limit. You can't go to the extremes as he went, but we need to mediate that a little bit better. And I love that message.
You cynical man. And also, I just wanted to say real quick, I interpreted the ending completely different because there's a shot at the end when Miles Teller is playing his crazy drum solo and he's like shredding on the drums. And then it cuts in really close, like just a shot right here where you see his eyes. And then we see J.K. Simmons, and J.K. Simmons says something to him. And I believe what he says there is good job to him. And then he plays the drums and the movie cuts to black. So I think go back and rewatch that ending and tell me tell me it doesn't look like J.K. Simmons says good job at the end of that. When I've watched that ending, I've watched that ending like 6 or 7 times just because I thought that the second time I watched that movie. So
okay, deal. I'm gonna do that because that does add a whole another layer to. I guess it still confirms everything I just said, but it adds a layer onto everything else. So, like we said, spoiler alert. Sorry if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Okay, guys. So I guess this is just a Sundance episode. White Girl is the next one on my watch list. I saw this originally in January at Sundance. I walked out of it kind of confused. I didn't really know what to think. It kind of felt like it was just a bunch of random things and instances in this preteen girl's life. She has a lot of sex and does a lot of drugs, and I didn't get anything out of it, and it was really confusing to me. But I think that was just because it was so jarring. I got the Blu-ray and I watched it again this week, and I appreciated the film a lot more. And it really is great filmmaking within itself. It tells the story of a girl who moves to New York and lives her life in New York. She's trying to find her way. She's trying to discover who she is. It's I want to say it's a coming of age story, but it's not a normal coming of age like Perks of Being a Wallflower or Edge of 17, where the character really does learn a lesson and they're better from the situation. This is just kind of a blip in this girl's life. And I wouldn't say there's a huge character arc, but the storytelling is awesome. Have you heard anything about this, Spencer?
The only thing I heard about it was the message. You sent me a picture of it and told me to add it to my watch list, which I did. I added it to my Amazon watch list, but it sounds shocking and sexy as hell.
Definitely. And I think when I walked out of it, Morgan Saylor, I think is her name. I was like, how old is this girl? Because I feel like I just watched something very inappropriate. She in the movie, I think she plays like a 16-year-old, and she looks like a 16-year-old. So I was like, what did I just see? Oh my gosh. So it's, but she actually does. She can carry a film. I looked back at her IMDb, and she was in some Disney movie, the one with Kevin Costner, the running one or whatever, and she had a small role in that. Okay. But whatever. But she is going to be one in Sundance this year that I think we should go check out. All in all, I liked it the second time a lot better, and I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. Good movie, like he said, like the poster says, like the case says, shocking and sexy as hell. So kind of, I don't know if I could suggest it because it is pretty intense. So that's kind of that. Do you have any thoughts or comments or anything before we get into the now showing segment, Spencer?
No, it sounds pretty similar to that movie, kind of like a Midnight Cowboy for like a young teenage female. So if you guys know what Midnight Cowboy is and know how heavy of a movie that is, then yeah, it sounds like that's along the same type of lines as a Midnight Cowboy type of movie. But no, I'm ready to get into our first new release, Ryan.
All right, so the first on our now showing for this week is Office Christmas Party. I'm going to just kind of briefly go into it, and then I want to hear your thoughts first. Spoiler alert, I'm not very excited. The synopsis on IMDb says, when an uptight CEO sister threatens to shut down his branch, the branch manager throws an epic Christmas party in order to land a big client and save the day. But the party gets way out of hand. So this is a generic comedy featuring your normal actors. TJ Miller and Jennifer Aniston are in it, and Kate McKinnon is in it. And I've disliked Kate McKinnon, and I'll get into that more later. Spencer, did you see Office Christmas Party, and did you love it?
Yeah, I actually was really surprised by this one. I actually wound up loving this movie. I thought that it was really funny all the way through. I thought that TJ Miller actually gave a really, really funny comedic performance in this movie. I thought Jason Bateman and Olivia Munn had great chemistry throughout the entire movie. And I thought Kate McKinnon stole the show. That's obviously all a joke, okay, guys? This movie is so bad. I have 3 words for you people. Suspension of disbelief. And there's none in this movie. There is not a moment of this movie that was not cliche, generic, and that I had not seen before. I didn't buy a second of it. Yeah, the only part I said there that was honest is that TJ Miller does a couple funny things in this movie. There's one really funny moment at the very beginning of the movie involving pushing over a Christmas tree. That was about the one time in the movie that I laughed out loud. And then the rest of it just, oh, okay, whatever. That's all I got to say.
I was lucky enough to sit by someone who was super into the movie when I saw this. And so he was laughing the whole time. And so I appreciated that he was enjoying the movie. But I liked Olivia Munn, but I think that's just because I like Olivia Munn. I don't think she brought anything new to any of this. It was very generic. I did enjoy TJ Miller, but it's the same thing as Olivia Munn. I liked TJ Miller because I enjoy him. And I feel like this was just kind of another one of those roles that all of these guys keep playing, and another one of these movies that keep being made.
Yeah, he basically just plays Erlich Bachman from Silicon Valley. So
that's exactly what I was thinking. I do want to rant for just a little bit about Kate McKinnon because I despise her.
What?
I haven't seen a movie that I've enjoyed that she's in besides Finding Dory. And she has like 2 lines in that movie and you don't see her face, because I think that's the part that drives me the most insane is her face. Even like, go back, you saw Ghostbusters, right?
Yeah, I saw Ghostbusters, and I know what you're talking about. In Ghostbusters, I noticed that, but I'm going to disagree with you. On Saturday Night Live, Kate McKinnon is great, I think. I think she's so good on Saturday Night Live.
It depends on the sketch.
Yeah, but that's with everybody. So
okay.
I don't know. I think most of the time she does like hit. I don't know. I do agree in Ghostbusters, the only thing she does in that movie is make faces. There's nothing to her character other than making stupid faces. So
I feel like that was the same exact thing as this. You could always see her in the background.
Yeah.
Going like that and being that weird caricature that she always is. She drives me nuts. Rant ended. # Kate McKinnon. I'm over it. Let's move on to something that'll lift my spirits and everybody else's spirits.
Well, first, let's score it. I'm gonna give this movie a 4 out of 10. I mean, I guess if you were dying to see this one, go watch it. I bet you all the funny lines are in the trailer. I didn't watch the trailer, but like I said, there's one scene that made me laugh out loud. So is it worth it? No, it's not worth it.
I gave it a 5 out of 10, and I gave it a 4 out of 10, but then I thought about it for a second and I was like, I think I besides like all the generic stuff and besides Kate McKinnon, I did enjoy watching a few of the people, specifically TJ Miller, and so I gave it a 5 out of 10. It's not fresh, but it's closer to fresh than a 4 was. I don't know. I don't care. Let's move on.
Yep. So moving on, we're going to get into Manchester by the Sea, which is the new film by Kenneth Lonergan. Kenneth Lonergan is a playwright, but he also directed 2 movies. He directed You Can Count on Me and he directed Margaret. Did you watch either of those movies, Ryan?
I didn't, but Margaret is on my list that I want to watch within the next week or 2.
Okay, well, go ahead and put You Can Count on Me on that list too, because You Can Count on Me is great as well. I like Margaret. I think I like You Can Count on Me just a little bit more. I need to watch Margaret again, however, because it is a very different type of movie, and I don't want to give anything away before you watch it. But Manchester by the Sea is the newest film by Kenneth Lonergan, starring Casey Affleck, Lucas Hedges, Michelle Williams, and Kyle Chandler. And it tells the story of an uncle who is forced to take care of his teenage nephew after the boy's father dies. So Ryan, what did you think of Manchester by the Sea?
I don't even know where to start with this one, honestly, because it had a ton of hype. This is one that I tried to go see at Sundance, but the lines were so long, I never ended up getting a ticket for it. This was super, super popular. And this, what I'm about to say, is a discussion that is for another day. But I think this one should have won grand jury at Sundance. But I think Birth of a Nation may have got it for specific reasons and timing. You know, that came out at a certain time and it did well. That aside, I loved Manchester by the Sea, and this movie blew me away, even with all of the hype, even with seeing the trailers and everyone saying what a good movie it was. Kenneth Lonergan is a master, and the pacing and the direction of this movie are phenomenal. And I'm going to tell you, this is making its way into my top 10 favorite movies of all time. It's that good, and it's one of the ones that I'm gonna give this a score, and I'll just say I'll say it now. It's a 10 out of 10, and I rarely do that, and this film deserves it. Now, we had a pre-game kind of discussion that I ranted a little bit on, that we'll say the same thing we said before Birth of a Nation. There is some stuff going on right now surrounding this film, and same thing as Birth of a Nation. You need to go into it and you need to see this film, and you need to separate art from artist. No matter what your opinions are on the situation, the two need to be separated, because this film as art is perfect. What are your thoughts, Spencer?
I'm going to echo everything you just said. Manchester by the Sea, aka the best film of 2016. This movie rekindled my faith in the power of film. In a year like 2016, where we've been disappointed time and time again by things that have come out, Manchester by the Sea is a full stop masterpiece. And I'm going to echo what you said about the writing and directing by Kenneth Lonergan. You know, the way that they show memory in this movie, the way they edit that, and where he chose to show certain memories in the film is masterful. As you said, it's the sign of somebody who knows exactly what they're doing and exactly what they want to show the audience. And there's things that he chooses not to show his audience that are just as effective, you know, not showing us what are in 3 picture frames on Lee Chandler's dresser is so much more powerful than showing us what are in those picture frames. And so quickly, I want to talk about the acting in this movie, because the acting in Manchester by the Sea is one of the standouts of the movie. Casey Affleck is going to win the Oscar, I think. Despite the controversy that surrounds this film, as Ryan just addressed, I think that he is so good that his performance literally transcends that. And he's subtle in this movie, but by the end of it, it really sneaks up on you and knocks you over. I wanted to see, do you want to talk a little bit about spoilers after we kind of wrap up our thoughts a little bit? Because there's a couple scenes that I kind of want to ask you about. And if people have seen the movie, then they can like kind of hear our thoughts on those scenes. And if you haven't, I encourage you guys to come back and watch our thoughts after seeing this movie. And I'm going to tell you guys, lots of you will say, I'll just watch the spoilers just in case. I encourage you not to do that, or I'll watch the spoilers just because, you know, don't do that. Stop this, watch the movie, then come back and watch our thoughts on the spoilers, because this is a movie that I really think you need to experience. So quickly, I think we're going to score it the same. I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. I think that this movie's perfect. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Ryan said this broke into his top 10. It's also broken into my top 10. This is filmmaking of this kind is really rare, guys, and you should definitely go seek this movie out.
I agree. I want to echo everything you said. 10 out of 10. It's in my top 10. I need to sit down and I need to decide where things lie in my top 10. I've been working on a lot of lists today, but let's get into kind of some spoiler territory. Michelle Williams, I think I think she could get an Oscar as well. When I was putting things together and thinking about things today, she's been nominated 3 times. I think this could be her moment, as well as Casey Affleck. I am more convinced with Casey Affleck than Michelle, but that doesn't denote anything that she did in this movie. The first scene I want to talk about with you, we put together and uploaded a trailer reaction earlier this week, and it highlights one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie. And it speaks to, like you said, the writing and the direction and the acting. All 3 of those work perfectly in unison, because a scene like that, you can't just script that. You can't just write these words down. It has to be something that you write. Maybe he did it differently, but it comes across as something that you write down what you want to get across. And then it's something that the director has to sit down with his 2 actors, and all 3 have to be on their top game to decide, we're going to overlap this. We're going to do this. You're going to say this at this time. And it just has to play off of each other. And it works so well and so innocently. And it feels so real. This is rare when this happens to me, but I forgot I was in a movie theater. I was there and I got chills because I was like, "Ooh, it's chilly out here." It is so breathtaking. And that realization when he and she start crying broke me. I sobbed like a baby. Think what you will. I think the last movie, and I don't know why, but I think the last movie that I really, really cried in was actually Southpaw. And I don't know what it was about that movie besides the acting that really got to me, but I cried in that movie. I haven't cried in a real long time as hard as I cried in this movie.
Yeah. So, earlier this year, Moonlight came out and Arrival came out, and I gave both of those movies 10 out of 10. And I stand by that choice. I think that both of those movies are perfect masterpieces. But Manchester by the Sea, they're not even in the same ballpark, because, as you said, forgetting that you're watching a movie is some kind of an experience. But I had a talk with my uncle the other day where we were talking about Moonlight, and he told me after he walked out of Moonlight, he said, after the movie got out, I just thought to myself, I hope that Chiron is out there somewhere and he's okay. And after I watched this movie, I literally thought, I hope that Lee Chandler, wherever that man is, he's okay right now. And the fact that a movie character moved me in that way, because really at the beginning, in the first 20 minutes of this movie, he's not a very likable guy. You're like, I don't know. Like, it's interesting to watch his everyday activities because he's rude. He gets into fights. He's just like he's not a nice dude. There's a scene where a girl tries to come up and like talk to him in a bar, and he just like is super short with her. He hardly talks to her. And you're like, why is this guy this way? And then finally halfway through the movie, we get that big revelation. And the scene after that, you talked about the scene that's on the poster and between him and Michelle Williams, that's a scene I'll never forget, ever. Like it is so heartbreaking. As you said, I was like sobbing in this movie. It was humiliating. It was a humiliating experience because the theater I saw this in had 3 empty seats in the entire house. So I was sitting next to people literally crying, and it was super embarrassing. But I didn't care. I had like no shame. And the scene in the police station where he gives the monologue about how, he went to the store to buy some beer and he thought about putting the screen over the fireplace and he didn't. That's just one of the most. And then after that, where he pulls out that gun and he tries to shoot himself because it's just like, he's like, there's nothing left for me here. And the safety's on. That is one of the most powerful scenes I have ever seen in a movie. It was just emotionally devastating.
It was so well revealed too, because he's having this monologue and you're seeing the realization, and he's like, yes, this and this was involved and this was involved, and then they let him go, and he's like, you're letting me go, like nothing's gonna happen to me, and then it clicks, and then he goes for it, and you're just like, oh my gosh, what would I do in a situation like this, and how would this dramatically change my life and who I am? And that was such a brilliant thing. And you mentioned it right from the beginning. The way things are revealed in this is the standout, because, and that's, like, we said this before Nocturnal Animals, and we said this about Arrival. We don't want to talk about spoilers to spoil this, because this is a movie you need to see without spoilers. Like you said, this is on a different level, because those you don't want spoilers because there's a big twist. This isn't necessarily a big twist. It's just an experience that you have to live. You can know, spoiler alert for Nocturnal Animals, you can know the ending, that it's a book and the comparisons, or spoiler alert for Arrival, you can know that it's in the future and in the past, and you can still get a lot out of that movie. That's the same thing for this, but it's different. It's different. And I maybe I can't really vocalize it, because it's not a twist. It's an experience, like you said. It just kind of unfolds, and it's not gonna. It'll mean less because you don't get to experience it for the first time. But if you're brave enough and you can relive the experience that this lets you have over and over again, you're not going to be diminished each time you see this. It's going to impact you.
Well, and as well, one thing I wanted to say is, at the end of the movie, did you feel hopeful? Because I really felt hopeful for Lee Chandler, because he says how he's going to only take 2 buildings and how he's having an extra room, which made me think maybe he's saying, I'm going to try to start transitioning back into living again, because he really just, like, he's basically 6 feet under inside that apartment. He had 1 room, and he just went out, got drunk every night, and basically got into fights, I guess, to feel something. And that's super, super heartbreaking. But knowing that he's going back and he wants Patrick to come up and visit him on weekends is just, I think it shows hope for the character. And there's that great scene at the end. And this is a scene that just, I seriously teared up like a baby when this happened, when he's sitting down at the table with Patrick talking, and he sums everything up in 4 words by saying, I can't beat it. And that scene where he says, I can't beat it, I just can't beat it, that is just like the saddest thing ever. He's such a tragic character, and you just want this guy to be okay. And Casey Affleck, he just, like, I really think he's my favorite actor of his generation. He is so good. He is so great in this movie. I hope that he gets an Oscar for this.
And I think the best thing, I think you've said this on a previous episode, but what sells it? Within the first 3 minutes of this movie, I knew this had Oscar potential for him, because his eyes. A character or an actor is in a character when you can tell it in their eyes, because I've heard Michael Fassbender talk about this a lot, and it's not always easy to see, but you can kind of tell when a great actor is phoning it in. And I don't want to say phoning it in the sense of I'm Danny Trejo and I'm showing up in this movie because it's money, but The Revenant. Why am I spacing on his name?
Leonardo DiCaprio?
No,
Tom Hardy?
Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy has talked about The Revenant, and a lot of people have asked him how he prepared for the role, how he came up with character backstory, and he's flat out said, I didn't do any research. I showed up on the day and I did this. And he got nominated for an Oscar, and he's really good. But in his performance, I never saw it in his eyes. But Casey Affleck, you notice his eyes are everywhere. He's feeling the things he's going through as he goes through them. and that's tremendous, and that's hard to do, especially with the content that he is living with this movie. It's astonishing what this guy is able to pull off in this movie.
Well, you just said something really interesting that I just really quickly wanted to touch on. You said that he's feeling everything that he's going through, and the strength of the direction, the writing of this movie makes us feel everything he's going through as well. And like we have been saying throughout this episode, the way they reveal all of this is just so masterful. Like, you really feel like you're watching a great piece of art. And I think in our Moonlight review, you said something about feeling like a fly on the wall. And
Yeah.
in Manchester by the Sea, my goodness, that fly on the wall feeling is there. I just want to ask you one more question. Do you think that Lucas Hedges should be nominated for Best Supporting Actor? Because I thought he was great in this movie.
Yes, yes. And I put him on my list as being nominated. Personally, I am rooting for Michael Shannon to win Best Supporting, but I'm reconsidering after watching this because that was one thing that I do remember thinking in the middle of this movie was he's on par. And that's not something to take lightly. I mean, you can see a great lead and a not so good supporting, but when they're able to work as good together as everyone in this cast, even like we said, Michelle Williams, but everyone elevates each other.
And Kyle Chandler. I don't want to discredit Kyle Chandler. He's only in it for 5 minutes, and Michelle Williams is only in this movie for maybe 10 minutes. But both of them, with like those 5 and 10 minutes, you fully believe that they are these characters. I never once saw Michelle Williams. I never once saw Casey Affleck. Never once saw Lucas Hedges. Never once saw Kyle Chandler. I only saw the characters that they were playing in the movie. Such
Brilliant.
a great movie.
Brilliant. I think that's kind of all. I mean, I could sit and I could talk about and have new things come to my head all night, but I think that's the gist of it. Long story short, go see this movie, please. It's hard to watch and it gets you, and you have to mentally prepare yourself before and after seeing this movie because it'll wreck you. But it's worth it. This art does need to be seen. And it deserves to be seen. So go out and see that. Overall, this last month has been the highlight of 2016. So as we're getting into Oscar season and award season, this is definitely one to check out because it will be nominated for tons of Oscars, and it'll probably win a lot of them. So I think that wraps it up today. Did you have anything that you wanted to talk about?
No, I just wanted to briefly say, I think you guys will be seeing Manchester by the Sea on our best of 2016 lists. Definitely. I can't, for myself, I really can't. I mean, we still have La La Land and Silence. Those are the only 2 movies that I feel could dethrone this. Maybe Rogue One, possibly. But I doubt it. I really have my doubts with this one. Like, it's very rare that a movie breaks through to my top 10 after first viewing. But yeah, I don't have anything else to add. Do you know what we're talking about next week?
Yeah. So speaking of next week, we are watching Rogue One.
That's right. I don't know why I just didn't think of Rogue One. We talked about this.
La La Land. Hopefully, it's still up in the air because no one's officially published showtimes for La La Land.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to see that one this week or not, but I hope so. I'm pumped up after Whiplash. Us talking about that earlier.
Definitely. So Rogue One. Look forward to that. I'm gonna say this now. Follow me at Rye_Gordon on Twitter and Instagram because I am going to be seeing Rogue One, and I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm not going to announce when I've seen it, but as soon as I've seen the movie, I am going to be posting on Twitter a reaction selfie, and I'm not going to title it. I'm not going to hashtag it. I'm just going to post it so you'll all know what I thought of Rogue One by following me on Twitter. Spencer, where can they follow you?
You guys can follow me on Twitter at SpinnyHand, and you can follow me on Instagram, Spencer Henderson, all lowercase, all one word. Maybe I'll do a reaction face as well. I'll probably caption it though. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the future holds. Speaking of space and sci-fi. All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Ryan, you got anything else to add, buddy, before we sign off?
No, I don't. Like you said, comment down below. If you've seen Manchester by the Sea, let us know. If for some reason you went and saw Office Christmas Party, let us know. We want to hear your thoughts, so we appreciate any comments that you guys give us. Until next week, peace.